In the meantime, let's get into all of the issues and problems down there at the southern border. This is what we know. Border Patrol has caught more than 17,000 migrants in South Texas in just the last 5 days. So let's go out to South Texas right now. Eagle Pass, to be specific. That's where Fox News multimedia reporter Chelsea Torres is standing by, and Chelsea joins me.
Hey, Andrew. Well, today it's actually a little bit slower than it has been even just the past 2 to 3 days. I mean, yesterday was night and day to what it looks like right now. And I mean, you can tell behind me there really isn't much action going on, but it's surprising because DPS did say that there's been 17,000 migrants that were caught just along the Del Rio sector, and that also includes here in Eagle Pass. You know, Del Rio is only about an hour and a half or so away, but it's important to know that those 17,000 migrants are not the kinds of migrants that are just getting away, those gotaways. They're also not the ones that are even coming through the ports of entry. They're the ones that are just crossing illegally, and they end up getting caught by Border Patrol. And DPS tells me that this is more than they typically see around this time of year, and especially along the southern border, and it's really a strain on their resources. Now, border officials say most of the migrants arriving here in Eagle Pass are riding trains from Mexico. Then, once they end up getting closer to the border, a human smuggler usually shows them exactly where they should be crossing. Now, Border Patrol is stretched thin, working ports of entry and processing those migrants.
You know, when people talk about drug use, fentanyl, heroin, everybody associates that with the city. Big city. Dallas, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Chicago. But I've been working as a park ranger for a long time. And let me explain something to you. There's quite a few people who come out here to the middle of nowhere to get high and do dope. The difference is, you don't have to go looking for them in major cities. They're on the side of roadways where they can collect money. But out here in these woods, you'll be walking along and stumble upon a person laid out, strung out on dope. And this just really started becoming more and more prevalent over the past 3.5 years. It seems as if there's more and more people who've been coming across the border illegally, and they've been hiding in our national parks and our national forests. At first, you used to see these camps with them there. Then the drugs hit. And so now I'm finding illegal camps with drug addicts spread out all over the place. And these are the circumstances under which I saw one of the most horrific things I've ever seen. Now pause, let me say this for you before I go any further in this story. I will not and I cannot tell you the location where I work. And I will not and I cannot disclose more than what I'm disclosing right now. It is your choice, your personal choice as to whether you believe me or not. I frankly do not care, and I'm not losing my job to prove a point to you. However, what I will say to you is this. If you are truly interested in finding out the truth is all over the place. It cannot be hidden. If you're lazy and you want somebody else to do the work for you, then you get what you get. Now, back to my story. I know that there are 4 illegal camps in this area. And listen to me, when I tell you I do my job and I go by and I check, but there's only so much that you can do. The combination of the difference in customs and how people behave and the language barriers, I'm not trained to deal with these type of things. Imagine a part of your job being to go deep into the woods and check on people in camps. And every time you come to that camp, someone is overdosed or just laying there dead. That has never been a part of my job description, but however, now it is a major part of my job and many others' jobs, and many other men like me. Now, what makes the entire situation worse is that there are people who go into the woods to bring them their drugs. I had one opportunity to bust one of these guys. I had one opportunity to bust this guy who was doing it. So I take him down, put him in handcuffs, put him in a car, take him, bring him to the police station. They process him. And guess what? Somehow, miraculously, he is released. When I go and talk to my friends, they say he must have help from Satan on high in order to get away with what he got away with. Talk about discouraging. So now my job, which was to check on U.S. citizens who are out camping in the woods and make sure they're okay, my job is transformed into checking on illegal aliens who are out in the woods who are drug addicts. And they're very, very dangerous, unsanitary. Now, fast forward, 3 months later, we go from 4 camps in the woods to 8 camps in the woods. And one group decides they're going to move way out into the woods, up on the side of a hill. Now, as I'm talking to them, trying to make sense of what they're doing and trying to figure out why they would make camp in some of the most treacherous terrain in our area, They're able to communicate just a little bit in English and says, this is like our home. And I'm trying to explain to them that America and our land is nothing like your homeland. We have different problems, different weather patterns, different everything, different animals, but it's not being communicated to them. So listen, I marked their coordinates. When I leave that camp, it is 12 people, 5 men, 5 women, 2 children, and I go on about my business. Months later, I circle back and I come to check on them. And now it's 3 men, 2 women, and 1 child. And I asked them, now it's 3 men, 2 women, and 1 child. Listen, I'm noticing a change. And at first I'm thinking, okay, these people decided they were going to leave. The land was too treacherous. They got out of the way, right? No, hell no. That's not what happened. They're trying to communicate to me in their foreign language, which is Mandarin, and I don't understand Mandarin. They're trying to tell me in their foreign language, which is Mandarin, that something is taking people. The problem I'm having is out in the middle of nowhere. You don't get any cell phone signal, so you can't use Google Translate. So in order to really understand what's being said, I have to record everything that they're saying. And I need you to understand this as I explain the story to you. They're talking to me, I'm recording them. I leave, and days later I understand that they're saying that something has taken the other people. However, based on their body language, I could tell in that moment that something was wrong. I just didn't know what was wrong. Now, I'm back at the office translating what it said, and I called my boss and I said, boss, you're going to need to hear this. And they are describing 2 giant black wolves that came in and started taking and eating people. They were calling them black demons, but the description was a dogman, clearly described as a dogman. Now, when my boss hears this, he gets on the phone with Washington, D.C. And I need you to understand something about our national parks, our national forests, immigration, and everything else. All decisions start with Washington, D.C. I have no power. He has no power. He has to get on the phone. Get this. He gets on the phone and he's arguing back and forth saying these people are in danger. They need to be taken out of the area. And they tell him, no, leave them be. Are you listening to me? Directly out of the head office in Washington, D.C., they tell my boss, no, leave them be, draw no attention to it. So now the 2 of us are sitting there freaking out like, hold on, we know what's in these woods. Don't be fooled. We know exactly what's out here in these woods. And we're saying to ourselves, man, we can't leave these people out here. So the 2 of us venture back out into the area. And when we get there, nobody's left. There's torn, bloody clothes, drag marks, tents destroyed. It looks like a pack of wild, rabid animals came in there and ate and destroyed everything. My boss is standing there looking at this and he just starts to cry saying, listen, I don't know what we can do about this because we're not the people who are allowing them to come in across the border and then stationing them in our national parks and forests. He says, I don't know what to do. Listen, my boss racks his brain over this for a month and he decides that he's going to create his own small handheld map that he gives to these people. And it's written on the back side. Directions are in multiple languages explaining that these areas are off limits. Do not go into these areas. And even with that being done, people are still going into those areas. And they are not coming back. They are being eaten and killed.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The one and only James Williams Dark Waters. I'm hoping this is recording me, and I'm hoping that you can hear me clearly. I'm back with a little bit of inside baseball for you guys. And when I say a little bit, it's not a whole bunch, but I do want to explain a few things to you. So, if you guys will recall, going back years ago, we went through this phase in the kind of horror narration feel, cryptid feel, where it was all about like the park rangers, right? And everybody was doing these, creepy park ranger outpost stories and creepy park ranger stories. And it what ends up happening anytime there's true stories that come out and true encounters, they end up getting kind of flipped and turned into creepypastas, which, I want to be clear, it is what it is. That's just how the process goes. But back then, I built relationships with people that were real park rangers. I mean, real deal park rangers. But I held on to a bunch of stories, mainly because I didn't want them to get lost in that shuffle. Fast forward, I started getting calls again from a lot of those people, and they're talking about what's going on and how the open borders in America is affecting the national parks and how people are being shipped in to the national parks. Now, in the news, you're hearing about people being shipped into major cities, right? And they want to ship people in for voting blocks so people can vote. And for example, you look at Chicago. Chicago had a whole bunch of people going to it from out of the country. They realized how bad Chicago was and decided to go back home to their own country. But what nobody's talking about, and I don't think I'm first, but I think I'll be fine with this one. What nobody's talking about is where else they're shipping those people into. And a lot of those people are being shipped into your national parks and forests. And they're taking refuge. And then some of the people who aren't being shipped there, they're just used to being in the wilderness, and they are taking up and making camps in those locations. And so I say it'll be about a year, maybe 6 months before all this really comes out to where people really see it. But right now, you have a lot of people going missing. A lot of them. And the problem that we're running into is they're not American citizens. They're undocumented. And frankly, nobody cares. And initially, when I first started getting stories, and I'm going to do a couple of these, I might as well just do them back to back. Initially, when I started getting the stories and talking to a lot of these gentlemen, I was like, okay, well, there's a lot of active serial killers right now. And so I'm thinking it's serial killers. Because, bro, there's plenty of active serial killers. That's one of the stories I've never went into, and I never will, because I know how active they are. But nonetheless, I'm thinking, all right, these are serial killers that are taking advantage of the fact that we have this influx of people coming into America. Well, no, not at all. This is the furthest thing from that. These are people who go into locations where cryptids are, and they are becoming lunch. Sorry about that, guys. I'm trying to repair an old cell phone because I needed to get some data off of it. Some phone numbers for some people. And I don't back phone numbers up on the cloud. Because, unfortunately, I don't want everybody knowing who knows who. So they stay on the phone. And then when I have the information, that phone goes bye-bye. All right, so, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Nonetheless, you got people going missing out here in these streets. And the problem that we're running into is that these people are illegals and they're not documented, and they will all start to come out soon, and you'll start hearing more about it. But I wanted to share some of these stories with you from these park rangers so you can get an idea of what's going on in your parks and national forests. You know who to thank for the problem? Same person that opened up the border and let all these people come in. In the next story, you'll understand why it's so dangerous because of some of the things they've discovered in these national parks and forests. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Dogman or Bigfoot or I'm not sure what did this in this next story that's to come. I want to say it's Dogman, but I told you there's worse things out there than Dogman. So I'll say this. I'm not going to say that they're here to protect anybody and it's their job to protect America, because people will make that leap and go into, yeah, they're protectors of the forest and they're protecting our country. No. I think that they protect where they live. And if you bring your evil, foul behind to the area, and you got every bad intention to hurt people, then they gonna deal with you. Unrestrained, no problem whatsoever. They gonna deal with you. And that's what I think is happening. But nonetheless, as this all plays out, you'll hear the rest of them. Bada bing, bada boom. One and only James Williams, Dark Waters. I'm out of here. I hope you guys enjoy the story. And there'll be more coming. Boot, doot.